Only Saturday ISKCON and address in the night. Saturday night event. Then ticket కొన్నాను.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, can you switch on the sound? Is it? Not that I hear. Can you make it?
Hare Krishna.
We have a sound. Sorry. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
As I said, I have bad karma with my cordless mics, you know. And I need probably a bit more sound. Sorry. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Just turn it a bit up. You know, what old woman's voice is not so powerful. Not like a young man's voice, you know. So how do I squeeze? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All right, we try. Hare Krishna. Number Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimate Devaranta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Guravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shanyavari Pashatyara Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gavaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gavaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gopaktabendra Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chair, the chair, get the chair. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nitya Haribo, 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 Nitya Haribo. I go permanently, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki, go permanently. Can you do me a favor and just give me a touch more sound? Otherwise, I have to put so much strain on my voice. So thank you. Now you switched it off. A little bit more. Is that all? Really? Okay. Yeah, well, if I go really close, because my voice is my chronic problem. Old age, I can hardly even sing anymore. I used to have a strong voice, but 65, always talking for years on the streets in Gatan all day. Voice is gone. Yeah, so without a sound system, I cannot talk at all. Okay, so who would have thought of that? For the last minute announcement that so many do come together. Thank God many of you are living very close, right? So you don't have to travel that far to get here. Do we maybe have more chairs somewhere? Yeah, the young folks, which we don't have that much here. The young folks can use the cushions, but yeah, it's all right. Om Agyantimanasya Agyananjala Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gove Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Sthapadam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadam Mayam Dadati Swabadantikam Namo Vishnu Parakashabhasa Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pachayane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pasatade Satarine Vanshakapati Vasa Kipasanivevacha Paditanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah, so once again, thank you for coming. This is very inspiring to me to have a few faces here to talk to, not only on, internet there, the black holes with names in it, when the videos are not switched on, that means people are not even with us here. They're doing something else. So let me see. Please switch on your videos so I can see at least your smiling faces there on our screen. I've got a big screen in front of me here, and I see only a couple there. The others are all hiding, and they're probably doing something else. They're not really attentively listening. Anyway. Yes, but all of you are here, so thank you. Yes, so we have today and tomorrow 2 sessions on this topic of the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. I have to say the whole course, how I give it in Mayapur every year, and that's the most popular course there. I always have 50, 60, 70 people there. False ego course is really popular. So I usually give it over 10 hours. So we can only have little snippets here. But as you see, there is a book there. And I'm simply hoping that some of you will be inspired to get the book, because in the book is even more than what I can put in the 10-hour course, because usually I'm always running out of time and so on. Yes. So let me just begin. So today, basically, we introduce the topic just to get a more clearer idea what this false ego is and how it is affecting us. And then tomorrow, I want to introduce one really important rule of Vaishnav etiquette, which helps us to dissolve our false ego in a practical day-to-day way. Yeah, that's kind of all we can discuss in these 2 hours, you know, or 2 sessions, 2 times 2 hours. Yeah, so, and let me share what inspired me to give this topic of the false ego some more attention. Because often people say to me, Mataji, you're talking about things that nobody else really talks about that much, you know. So false ego, we don't really hear so much about it. But yeah, what inspired me to talk about it is, for once, that for many years I've been giving holy name retreats. And one day I started realizing that unless we don't parallel also work on dissolving our false ego, then our endeavors to get on deeper levels of chanting is compared to an elephant taking bath. What's the elephant doing when he comes out? He immediately, with the trunk, takes the dirt, throws it all back on his back. So that's basically what we do. You know, we may make so many endeavors to get on deeper levels of chanting, but then we fall back into our false ego patterns of behavior, and we are trapped in them. And then we can't really get anywhere much. In fact, we cannot really receive all the powers and benefits the holy name carries. Because that's why Mahaprabhu says, Trinada Pisuni Trina, right? We have to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. So humility, tolerance, they are the effects of the false ego being dissolved and subdued. And what stops us from being humble and tolerant is the false ego rebelling and demanding and protesting, you know? Yes. So, and these 2 things we have to do parallel. We have to work on deepening our chanting, but then at the same time, we have to develop a genuine selfless service attitude in humility without false ego. And if we concentrate on developing these 2 things, then we make quite nicely progress. But the other thing is that Krishna consciousness gives so much opportunity to do the opposite of what we should be doing. Instead of subduing and dissolving the false ego, we can very nicely boost it and feed it. Oh yes, you know, Krishna consciousness gives tons of opportunities for this. And from far away, it may look like the real thing, but we completely miss the target. Completely. In the name of Krishna consciousness. And it's so subtle that we often don't identify it, you know? And we think we are doing the right thing. We are not. No. Yes. That's why also Rupa Goswami says that the bhakti lata and the weeds, they look so much the same, you know, in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the devotee has to become an expert gardener to distinguish what is the weed, what is the bhakti lata, you know, and the weed is this feeding of the false ego, running after name, fame, adoration, and distinction, and all that, you know. Yeah, so, and it's just so subtle, so subtle. I remember once I gave a little introduction into the seminar in Vrindavan. And one Mataji I know for many years, she's been around for 15, 20 years, sincerely practicing. She came up to me and she said, oh, thank you for giving the seminar. Now I realize I actually have a false ego. And she said, I always thought this is just some technical, you know, theoretical thing that has no relevance for me. But now I realize actually I have this, you know. Yeah, after 15, 20 years of serious practice, we may not even realize how this is relevant to us, And another amazing thing is that the bigger and more prominent our false ego is, the less we can see it. You would think it's the other way around. The bigger it is, the more easy we see it. No, the bigger it is, the less we see it. Yes, it actually requires some little purification and some mindfulness, being more conscious and introspective and reflecting. And only then we perceive. And it's almost like the more purified we become, the more we realize that the false ego gets into our way almost every day, and often we do the opposite of what we should be doing, Yes. In this regard, I want to share a little episode. I know one Mataji in Europe. She has a very prominent false ego, and as a result, she always gets herself in conflict and tension. So, and at some stage, she kind of was turning towards me, and and she wanted to reveal her mind a little bit. So I thought, all right, let me try and help her to understand the problem. And so very carefully I was saying, well, I guess the false ego always gets us into trouble. And then the way she responded, she said she was laughing. She was laughing it off, saying, come on, false ego, what's that? I don't have that. And I was completely shocked. How is it possible? If you have such a prominent false ego and you're laughing it off, saying, come on, what's that? I don't have that. Oh, I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. So, but then what I answered was, I wish I could say this about myself. That's all I said. I didn't say more than that because I realized no use, no use. Yes, yes. Yes, because false ego blocks our ears, blocks our intelligence. We can't hear, we can't understand. And, and if somebody thinks, I don't have that, probably I wouldn't have much luck in convincing her that she does, Yes, but yeah, these things really made me wonder, and also, and we will get to this in a minute, that so often, and I'm not saying this to criticize, I'm simply making the diagnosis. I actually used to work as a physiotherapist before I met the devotees. So I still have this therapist approach to preaching, making the diagnosis. What's the problem here? And are we taking the treatment? Not just talking about the treatment, but let's take it, in the right dose, So in any case, yeah, so I'm sure, many of you have been longer around than me. But anyway, anybody who has been, let's say, longer around than 25, 30, 35 years, you probably have observed this many times too, how sometimes we get so attached to title and position, right? And Shastra is promising detachment, If you nicely follow the process of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, detachment is the result. So I've been scratching my head thinking, somehow something is missing here, Otherwise, why would we still be so attached to title and position, after so many years of practice? Something is missing, something we do wrong, Yes, yes. So all these, thoughts and observations, inspired me to dive a bit more into this whole topic of the false ego. Yeah, and I mean, for me, putting the book together was a really purifying journey. And I became even more aware of it, how my false ego constantly gets into my way, almost every day, you know. False ego pushes us to say and do things which we shouldn't say and do, and just to get that gratification that I know better. And, you know, oh, yeah. So, yeah, it has helped me a lot and inspired me to do some internal work. Tomorrow I will share some 5 very practical steps, which are very simple, but they really work for any kind of transformational process where we want to transform unwanted patterns of behaviors. We'll leave that for tomorrow. Yeah, so, and I'm applying them, and yeah, it's hard work, constant work, but you gradually see that something transforms by Krishna's mercy. So usually the way I work is that I do present a few things. I'm kind of a bit the old style, the old school, you know, that I don't like PowerPoint presentations. You know, I mean, for the whole course, I have some printed materials, but since we're only doing, you know, 2 little sessions, I didn't print anything out. Yeah, so I like to present a few things, but then I do want to give time for questions and discussions, you know, because it is a practical topic. So let us begin by becoming more aware what the false ego is. So as we know, the soul is covered by the gross body made from earth, water, fire, air, ether, and there's the subtle body, mind, intelligence, false ego. So here we have it. It's the most subtle element of the subtle material body. And yes, it's so subtle that we can easily miss it. And interestingly, just the same how the elements of the gross body you cannot separate. You show me, where is the earth in your body, right? Or the water, or the fire, or the air, or the ether. Where is it? You can't show here's the earth or what, you know, it's all mixed, right? So, and a similar thing is there also with the subtle body, mind, intelligence, false ego. Hard to really separate them because they influence each other backwards and forwards, you know? And interestingly, the false ego, being the most subtle part, uses the intelligence and mind as tools. Yes. So very often, you know, you can analyze yourself tomorrow when you chant. When the mind wanders, very often there's the false ego behind it, and simply using the mind to get its gratification. Yes. So once we are a little more perceptive and knowledgeable about the false ego, we can discover all these subtle things, which before we didn't even notice. We didn't even think about it. We didn't even, you know, somehow perceive or anything, you know. So yeah, that's what it's like. Mind and intelligence, the false ego uses as a tool, you know. So I guess the false ego is the root cause even of material existence, you know. That's why we are here, because we identify with the body and so many things, you know. Yes. So, and in that way, the intelligence and the mind gets contaminated, and yeah, and then the false ego pushes the mind and intelligence. We will discover all different practical situations, you know. Yes. Yeah. So, and as we also know, at the moment of death, the soul leaves the gross body behind, moves on the subtle body to the next existence, right? So the subtle body we have been carrying with us for so many lifetimes. So many. Yes. Especially in the mind, there's also so many information stored, like some computer chip or something. So much information is stored there. And if we want to go back to Godhead, we have to transform the subtle body and fully spiritualize. So all the material aspects have to be deleted and replaced with spiritual impressions and desires and attachments and experiences. Yeah, so it is quite some work that needs to be done there, to actually fully spiritualize it. So, and we can say the false ego is transformed into the real ego, which is Jiva Svabhava Krishna Nityadas. I'm eternal servant. Yes. So easy to say, yes. We sign every letter, you're servant, but to actually be servant and fully identify with only that, that's a whole different story, Not so easy, not so easy. So now, interestingly, we can observe how the false ego starts acting already at very young age, in the youngest childhood. I remember I once visited a family. Their daughter was 1 year, could not talk, but she could walk. So while I was sitting in the lounge room talking to the parents, the girl got all her toys from her room. And I didn't really give it that much importance, but then the mother said to me, she is showing off her toys because you are here. I thought, oh my God, that's how it starts already at 1 year. The girl can't even talk yet. But my toys, look at my toys. They are so special. And because they are my toys, that's why I am so special. That's what's behind it, yes. I dare say it probably starts even at younger age than 1 year, that kids throw these tantrums and try to push through their will. And, yeah, anybody who's got children, they know it all. So, and basically we can say false ego makes us think that we are something which we are not. Because often when we hear false ego, we only think of pride and arrogance and overconfidence and all this. Well, that's one aspect of the false ego. But no, it's also the subtle thing of simply thinking ourselves to be something which we are not. Right? So that's the subtle aspect of the false ego, And as a result, we get that pride and arrogance and all that, Yes. So basically, that's what it is. False ego makes us think that we are something which we are not. So it starts young age. I'm a boy, I'm a girl, so then I'm a student, I'm a medical student, engineering student, this student, that student. So then maybe I'm husband, wife, mother, father, and, so many other things, professor, whatever. And of course, this does not end when we join Krishna consciousness. It continues there. I'm a brahmachari, I'm a grihasta, and I'm the head pujari and the cook and Sankirtan leader and temple president and this and that and this and that. So there are, of course, roles we are playing, right? We all play so many roles in life. At home we have one role. Then when we visit our parents, we have a different role. At work, in the office, we have a different role. In the temple, different role. So we have so many roles we play, like we may be wearing different caps or hats at different opportunities, you know. So, but we are not the cap or hat. We're just wearing it. Of course, sometimes we may even identify with some real cool, special, unique hat. That's me. Part of me. Yes. So that's basically the problem. You know, it's not that we should not play roles or that we should not accept different titles and positions. No, of course, they're helpful. But we should not identify with them. That's the problem. Like, you know, we are not the body, but we do have one. And we are driving a certain vehicle here, female, male, whatever, you know. Yes. So, yes, we are not these roles. So that's where things go wrong. So now my question to you, why do we identify with these roles? What do you think? What makes us identify with them? Yes. Yeah, we are in ignorance. That's one reason. But what else? Yes, but what else? Yes, exactly. We feel important. Actually, the reason why we identify with these roles is because of this subtle sense gratification, which the false ego demands, of feeling some importance, you know, I am somebody, right? Yes. And also some little recognition, right, comes along with these roles. And that's why we identify with them, because we are attached to this kind of sense gratification, which the false ego pushes us. The false ego runs after this enjoyment, and it pushes us and whispers into our ear, you are so great, you are special, you know better, you are unique, you are the center of the universe, you know, your plan is the best. So actually, I remember once in Bangladesh, I was giving this course to a whole bunch of brahmacharis, was about 60, 70 brahmacharis there. Oh, you've been to Bangladesh, you know what it's like. And I was asking them to put on role plays, you know. So this one role play was so sweet. I mean, sometimes role plays are really powerful, you know. And there was this one boy, he put a black burqa on, being in a Muslim country, not difficult to get one. And he played the false ego, you know. And he was always dancing around this devotee, you know, whispering something in his ear. Oh, you're so good. He was just getting ready for a preaching program, you know. It was hilarious, you know, and he was just dancing around him. Oh, you have to wear your chadar like this, and special tilak has to be Radhakund tilak, and this and that, you know, and oh, hopefully my voice is very nice tonight. And so the false ego was just dancing around him, always whispering these things, and he was nodding and yes, taking it all in, you know, what the false ego was pushing him for, you know. Yeah, so that's what it's like. False ego is almost like some separate entity which whispers some nonsense into our ears all day long, you know, how great we are and this and that, you know. Yes, so that's, you know, why we identify with it, because we are after this subtle sense gratification of feeling important, being somebody and getting some little recognition. Right? Yeah, so, and very clear if we think ourselves to be something which we are not, this can never be a peaceful situation, right? Because we always have to pretend to be something else. And that can become quite exhausting and full of anxieties. We can just imagine we are serving as a servant at a king's court. And then one day we proclaim, so now I am the king. This would be a lot of anxiety, you know. How can I convince everybody that I am the king? And what happens if they notice I'm actually not the king? And. So you have sleepless nights, right? So, and then after a few days you say, oh, it was just a joke. I'm actually not the king. I'm just a servant. Oh, thank God, you know. I don't have to make a whole show here and try to pretend something which I'm not. And I can just be my humble self, just serve. You know, it's a relief. And actually, yeah, when we come to Krishna consciousness, usually there is this moment of relief. I definitely remember. It was such a relief. I don't have to worry what to wear, you know. For non-devotees, even this is can become such a torture. You have to be, you know, dressed for the occasion, and people look up and down on you and judge you, and, you know, and you don't fit in because you don't wear this or that. And you know, so thank God, sorry, and you're always right, you know, no problem anymore. So yes, initially there may be big relief, but then very easily the whole false ego thing also starts in Krishna consciousness, you know. Yes, so false ego, yes, it's just haunting us. And yes, there is also, as I mentioned this morning, very briefly only, Prabhupada makes this nice comment. I think it's in which canto? Fifth canto, 10th chapter, verse 12. He says, life in the material world is like a nonsensical stage performance. Just mute everybody there so we don't get some big noises there coming. Our technician is there, or has he left? Huh? He left. Okay. So please be quiet there online, okay? We are quiet here in our classroom, so you also have to be quiet. Yes, nonsensical stage performance. That's really what it is. You know, we can see every lifetime like on the stage, and we are given some role we are playing. So, okay, this life, I am Indian man, running, running, running. I have so many important things to do. Oh, I'm so busy, busy, busy. No time for this Krishna stuff. I have so many responsibilities and running, running, running through life. So, and then death comes. Dum, 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 curtain is closing. Show is over. It's over. Yes. Good to remember this sometimes, that all these things which are now so important to us at the moment of death, no significance whatsoever. It's all a part of the nonsensical stage performance. Yes. Yes. I mean, some of us here are already a little elderly. So let's get ready for this last exam, you know. Yes. The only thing that counts at that moment is my relationship with Krishna, nothing else, because that's eternal reality. Yes, that's eternal reality. That's what we're allowed to keep and take into our next existence. Yeah, so, and then next crazy circus, you know, nonsensical stage performance starts. So then I may be in a German woman's body. running, running, running. I'm so busy, so important, so many important things to do. You know, same thing on the stage there. We do our show. So, and then death comes, curtain closes, finished, all over. You know, like that. And then next slide, dog in Sweden, barking. You know, dog also has a dog's mind. Yeah, can't we mute them? Anybody knows here? Where's the computer? Just come on, just click. Somebody click on muting everybody. You go and do it. Huh? Please, everybody, mute yourself so you don't disturb. No, now they're muted. They have the red thing there. Yes, so you did it. They did it. Okay, good. Yes. Yes, so dog has also dog's mind, dog's intelligence, definitely dog's false ego. Oh my God, you know, dogs have a big false ego. Well, this is my property. I have to protect, and who are you? Get lost, and I bite you, and all this. You know, yes, so that's the dog's false ego. Yes. So, yes, you know, nonsensical stage performance. Yeah, he also has his faults, ego. Yes. But the dog too. Hmm? Yeah, yeah. There's also psychologists who match to your personality the right dog, you know? And if you have some communication problem with your dog, you can go to some specialist and he will help you to communicate and remove all these blockages there. And yeah, I mean, anyway. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell, you know, the false ego. So basically, we can say false ego is really the main and foremost entity which causes us all kinds of inner battles and tortures and fears. And even when we have these monologues or dialogues going around in our heads in circles, you ever experienced that? Yes? Or is it only me who experiences sometimes? It's always a sure sign that the false ego takes us for a ride, you know, when we just can't drop it. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And he said, and I said, and she said, and I actually should have said, and they should not have said. And, you know, or if you face some provocative situation and then, oh, how should I react on this? And boo, and the false ego is pushing us, and oh, this is not fair. Or even when we get offended, how often does that happen, right? And it's the false ego crying out for justice and fairness. They should not have treated you like that. And who do they think you are that they can do this to you? And you were right. And, you know, this whole thing, who is right? It's all false ego stuff. You know, this, I am right. I know better. And I mean, married life. Anybody married here? Few, yes. Married life can be a whole battlefield for false ego. You know, people can spoil their whole marriage. It can lead to divorce. Just the false ego battles. You know, because I give all these courses, people often come to me with their marriage problems. And often people say, I don't know why we are arguing over these stupid, petty little things. They're not even life death situations or nothing. They're not even important, but yeah, I know why people argue, because it's just a false ego. Who is right? Who is wrong? Just see, I told you, didn't I? And why didn't you do like I said? And by the way, it was my idea, remember? And yeah, yeah, it's all, this all takes place not only in married life, also between grown-up children and parents. Oh, yes. So all these family relationships, once we recognize what's going on, they can actually be perfect opportunities to dissolve our false ego. Yes. I remember, my mother, she left her body last year. She was 92. And for quite some years, I had a strained relationship with her. And it took me quite a while to realize how I contributed to this. Yes, because I wanted to be right. I was thinking, well, I'm a preacher, I'm a devotee, I have to tell her what's right, what's wrong. But it's actually against Vaishnava etiquette because parents are always superiors. And we are not meant to instruct superiors and tell them what's right and wrong and answer back and have the last word and all this. So, and then once I realized these things, I consciously used that relationship to dissolve my false ego by letting her be right, even if she's wrong. And it's challenging for the ego. The ego is pushing the tongue to say something. But you have to really learn to control your speech. Yes, and let her be right. It's all right. Doesn't matter. Just yes, mom, no problem. I know what you mean. It's enough. Yes, and immediately our relationship became so sweet. Actually, thank God I realized that of quite a few years before she left. So I had enough time to really deepen our relationship. And I was there when she left, and I made a whole big preaching program for her funeral. Actually, it was quite amazing. I gave the main speech, in Tilak and Sari. Yes. Yeah, it was pretty fun, and devotees came and they cooked it up, and people came over 2 days. We had an open house there, and yeah, and we had even book table and everything. Yes, it was really. Yeah, I mean, she came 2 times with me to India. So yeah, but anyway, so thank God, I'm really grateful that I realized this before she left. So I could really smooth over our relationship, and it became actually really sweet and deep and nice. Yes. Yeah, but many people don't realize, and I'm convinced this is why so many of our devotees have strained relationships with their parents, because it's actually us who don't follow the Vaishnava etiquette and respect them as superiors. Well, my mother was very sensitive. Every time my ego got better of me, and I tried to tell her, "Ooh," she immediately reacted. I didn't like it. Yes, yeah. So these things are there. So family relationships, perfect opportunity to work on ourselves. And of course, not only in family, also in temple life. I mean, whenever we serve, you know, in a more intense way in the association of devotees under senior guidance, there's all kinds of ego clashes happening, right? Especially if the service situation is a little more intense, like Prabhupada marathon or getting ready for a festival, then often there's a few sparks flying. Yes. So that's all part of the purification. Yes. Let me see. I do want to touch upon one more thing, but let me stop here and see if you have questions, but please just about what we talked about, not something we haven't talked about yet, because maybe it's coming after this or tomorrow or whatever. We'll start with you. So the question for our online audience is, going back to this example of the 1-year-old girl who brought her toys there and was showing off the toys. So how do, and to what extent do the parents contribute to this? Well, Prabhupada does say that our family members are extended false ego. My husband, my child, my wife, it's extended false ego. And it's a fact. Often, it's not just my child, but oh, my child is special. It's even amongst us devotees, every mother thinks her child is a pure devotee and her child is so special. And yeah, and so, yeah, that is probably also going into the child then, and often we buy all kinds of things for the child to, manifest how special our child is, and our child has special toys which others don't have or something. So that's true, but nevertheless, let's be clear, the toys are the children's first possessions. My toy, and that's why kids always fight over the toys like anything. I mean, recently last year I was in Australia and I stayed for 2 weeks with one family. They have twins, 3.5 years old. I know the mother since she is 12 or something, and I arranged their marriage and so on. So she's almost like my daughter. So on my tour around Australia, I stopped over at her place and I was doing programs there in Brisbane. So, but my God, these two twins, the whole day, there was all these ego battles going on. Oh, and they go on no matter what the mother does. I mean, I definitely cannot say the mother is implanting this or something. No, it's just his ego.
Mom, let's go, please. బట్టలు పెట్టుకున్నావా?
Please mute yourself.
Mom,
Hey, everybody online, mute yourself. You're disturbing our class here. Huh? It's muted. Okay, good. Yeah, so this goes on, and kids can be quite nasty too. Oh, the one is really provoking and taking some toy and yeah, I'm using it now and really provoking the other person. I watched it all. My God, really mean, really mean, And then the other one is crying, running to the mom, and the other one is pretending, oh, I'm doing nothing, and so I watched all these games between them, very nasty, really provoking each other's egos there, and getting some pleasure from it. So this is just the nature of the conditioned soul, Yes. Okay, some more questions. To see it, yes. The bigger it is, the less we can see. Exactly. Yes. So how so what's the difference between perceiving big ego, small ego? That yes, when the false ego is big, we can't see it, but then when it's small, we do see it. Well, it's a matter of purification. You know, the more we become purified, the more perceptive we become towards subtleties and energies. You can compare it with a dhoti. So white dhoti, if it's white, clean, you can see every little speck of dirt, every little spot you see. But if it's dirty, one more stain you won't notice, right? So the more cleaner our consciousness becomes, the more we realize, oh, yes, oh, no, I should not have said that. Oh, again, you know, I said the wrong thing and so on, you know. Yes. It's just a matter of purification, you know. The more contaminated we are, the less we notice subtle impurities. I mean, this is also other people, towards other people, you know. As we become more purified, more mature, we perceive other people's energies more easily. We become more perceptive, right? Yes. The good ones as well as the bad ones. Yeah. the vibes. We are just more perceptive. Whereas when we are, you know, when we are ourselves in tamaguna, you know, then we don't even notice, you know. Yes. You know, even subtle things like when a person is not nicely dressed, you know, yet not dressed up, but clean and neat, mode of goodness, or, you know, so there's some energy coming, you know, or when a person is provocatively dressed, showing off or something, you know, you feel that energy immediately, the contamination coming from it. Whereas before you started Krishna consciousness, you didn't even think of it, anything, you know, right? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, when we think back, especially we women, probably before we became devotees, we were walking around in shorts and bikinis and all this. Well, would you feel comfortable turning up here in shorts? Probably not, you know. You would feel out of place, completely embarrassed, you know, right? But before you thought it was normal. Everybody walks around in shorts in the hot season or something, you know. So that's just an example how we become more perceptive towards subtleties, you know. Yes. What else? Mataji, you wanted to say something? Okay. Yes. Um, well, you mentioned the term defend, and this will be a topic for tomorrow. So I'd rather park this for tomorrow, you know. But yeah, it's true in preaching. Oh, yes, we can also preach full on with false ego, you know, even on book distribution. Just not being able to take a no for a no, you know, and an answer. But no, we have to get him to take a book by hook or by crook. And then the other person, you know, is also in the ego battle and they stick to no, I'm not going to take it, you know. Yeah. I heard once this funny story in Russia where a book distributor was distributing at a service station, petrol station where trucks come and fill up the gasoline, the diesel. So, and he was hitting up the truck drivers. And this one truck driver said, no, not interested. So, and he started up his truck. What's the book distributor doing? He's jumping on the back of the truck. So, and the truck starts driving, with a Devaki on the back, for miles. So, and then finally he's knocking on the cabin. Please stop. Let me get off, And then the truck pulls over, lets him jump off. So it took him half the day to hitchhike back to his spot, So yeah, I mean, real ego battle, until he had to give in and accept the no and and take the humble position. Okay, please let me get off the truck, Yeah, and also in preaching, often we want to, win the ego battle, the debate. This morning we were talking about Pujapa. So, and we argue with a person and we try to convince, but there's this ego mood in there, and and it's not purifying for others, Yes, not purifying. It provokes their false ego and so on, Yes. Yeah, so quite often it happens in preaching also, yes. Yes. And our ISKCON society. Yeah, I mean, that's why we say servant leader. We have this term, So sticky. So sticky. Yeah. Actually, I hope I don't get into trouble by making this point, but, man's body, woman's body, very different. So man's body, not only the gross body is stronger, as a rule, stronger muscles, because he's meant to protect and provide, but the subtle body also stronger, Mind, intelligence is very focused, rational, So when he fights the tiger, he can't allow himself to be emotional or something. We women are good in multitasking. Men aren't, because when you fight the tiger, you can't multitask. But as a mother, you have to be a good multitasker. Oh, I saw this when I stayed with this family with the twins, She is amazing in multitasking, Yeah, otherwise, how can you have kids, So, and man also, subtle man's body comes along with a stronger false ego. Yes, because he, according to Krishna's system, that's all in the first book here, Spiritual Culture, Krishna's divine system. There I'm explaining these things. It's all based on the Bhagavatam. So, because men, according to Krishna's system, are meant to take charge. And just to make sure he wants to play that role, the false ego motivates him. Yeah, that's why he's got a bigger false ego. Any woman who is married probably has noticed this, right? That men have a stronger false ego. So we women have to learn how to make this false ego our best friend and not our enemy, Yeah, so But yeah, that's why man's body comes along with a stronger false ego, just to make sure he wants to play that role. Because if it wasn't for the false ego, he probably would not want to take charge, but somebody has to play that role, you know? So now in Krishna consciousness, you know, our men are meant to learn to take charge without false ego motivation, but as humble servant. And that's difficult. It's a challenge. Anybody who has ever taken charge knows false ego immediately wants to be a part of it all. Right? Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. Yes. And we can see that very often amongst the men of similar influence, there is clashes. Because if you have a whole bunch of men there, they all have a stronger false ego, they all want to take charge, you're going to have some clashes, right? I mean, I have no idea what's happening here in LA, but I know in many other temples, there is so much politics and clashes going on amongst the men. And we have the same in the animal species, you know, in Vrindavan, monkey fights, dog fights. It's mainly the male monkeys and dogs fighting over territory, you know, same thing, because they're also meant to protect there, you know. Yes. Yeah, so it's interesting, you know. So that's where the men, you know, purify their false ego in a more practical way by cooperating with other men, especially those of similar influence and similar capacities, you know. Yes. So what's, maybe I better don't say this. I may get into trouble. So I better don't. Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 Yes, very, very true. Very true. Yes, 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 very true. Yes, good observation. Yes, so let me repeat for the online audience. So first question was the connection between patience, impatience, and false ego. Let me answer first at that. So we can say, I like to see it like this, that the primary quality we should develop is humility. And humility can manifest in secondary qualities like patience, gratitude, tolerance, right? They're all somewhat secondary qualities of humility. So a humble person will be patient, grateful, tolerant, whereas a proud person will never be grateful, patient, tolerant, you know? So yes, definitely, you know, it's when the false ego is dissolved, then we can be patient, we can be tolerant, you know? And what was the other one? Patience, tolerance, grateful. Yes. But usually it is the false ego that agitates us, and we can't be patient and we can't be tolerant. And, you know, we will talk more about tolerance tomorrow, actually. So now the other observation you made, how it is connected with culture. Very true. I have a whole chapter in the false ego book about this. Basically, in a nutshell, we can say materialistic culture is all about feeding and boosting the ego. You know, it's all about showing off. The path to success in materialistic culture is showing off. The more I can promote myself, push myself in the front line and stand in the limelight and show off, the more successful I will be. You know, that's definitely material life and its culture. Yes. And materialistic culture promotes that. And we are heavily surrounded by that, you know. Whereas spiritual culture promotes humility, you know? Yes. It promotes dissolving, subduing the false ego. Not only in Krishna consciousness, basically in all spiritual cultures, you know. And you can, I mean, yes, as soon as God is in the center of life, you know, even Christianity, you know, then we respect others, we respect Mother Earth, nature, you know, we don't want to exploit them. See, this is also an interesting thing, that sense gratification always goes together with a culture of disrespect. Whereas spiritual life is based on a culture of respect. So to respect, you have to have some humility, you know? Yes. Yes. So, and it also is connected with the standard of life. I can clearly observe this because I'm traveling quite a lot and also a lot in poor countries. Like before the war started, I've been preaching in Ukraine for over 20 years. Ukraine, before the war, even then was very simple standard of life, very simple, you know. Yes, I know devotees there, they did not have a proper bathroom and a proper toilet. They had a dry toilet in the wooden house there in the garden. And you, in Ukraine, you know, you get minus 30 degrees Celsius and ice and snow for quite a few months. So they had to go out at minus 30 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. You know, that's how they were living. And on the roadsides, you still have the pumps, like in India, where some people, they get the water there and so on, you know. Yes. So very simple life, you know. But yes, then it is much easier to realize that Krishna consciousness is the only source of happiness. And people are more humble, more respectful, definitely. The whole culture is very different there, you know. Yes. So yes, it's basically a question of materialistic culture, spiritual culture. You know, spiritual culture meaning where God is somehow in the center in some way. And that makes all the difference, you know. Well, it may be connected with their whole history, you know, that they always had to defend themselves and struggle and, you know, and they were killed and you know, so yeah, I dare say it's connected with that. Shall I move on and make a few more points, or do we have any other burning question? Mm. Yes. The, she's saying that it may be connected with following the four regulative principles or not following them, that then it is difficult to be humble when you eat meat or something. Yeah, maybe, but then again, well, I grew up in South Germany and the village, 50, 60 years ago, people were more God conscious. Every village had a beautiful old church in the center. Still, people did eat meat, but the whole atmosphere was different. Yeah, somehow they tried, to put God in the center, and not only on Sundays, but also they had their Bible readings and their choir singing and this, that, you know. And I mean, Germany has quite some heritage of spiritual culture. I mean, the city where I grew up, it's 700 years university, you know. So there's a whole different energy there with old monasteries and beautiful churches and cathedrals and whole old houses. And I mean, maybe you've anybody's been to Germany. American people always love Germany, because it's also old and cute and stuff. So I dare say, even though people were eating meat, but in the earlier days also they were just maybe killing a pig every 4 months or something. It was not like today. And I think some more humility was there. Also because people were not so wealthy. Wealth is quite intoxicating. It goes to your head and you think, oh, look at me and what I'm all controlling and so on. So, yeah, I think that may even be a bigger factor than the meat eating. Of course, that leads to pride. I mean, it's just the wealth, you know. Mm, mm, mm. Yes, yes, because sense gratification is based on disrespect. You're using others and Mother Nature and Mother Earth, for your gratification. So yes, it's rewarded. And if you have respect, you would never do that, you know? And respect is connected with humility. It's connected with God consciousness, whether you eat meat or not, but still, if you, somehow respect God and his creation, you know, then there is more respect there, you know. Yes. 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 The Kshatriyas are known to have their Kshatriya pride. That's true. That's a fact. Yes. 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 But if they want to go back to goddess, they also have to, you know, give it up. Yes, yes. And also a lower standard of life, simply being more poor, you know. I mean, in the Bhagavatam, there is quite a few quotes glorifying poverty, how being poor is actually not bad for spiritual life, you know? Yes, yes. And the Prabhupada makes his comments, a poor person easily opens the door and welcomes the sadhu, you know, but a rich person through the intercom system, who are you? What do you want? No, sorry, not interested. Or the Prabhupada talks about the greyhound watchdogs, you know, and so on. There's these purports, you know. Yes, 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 yes. All right, let me move on at 6:30. I do want to present one more point. That's the verse from Bhagavad Gita, 1858. There, Krishna gives us two choices to act. And he says the following. Choice number one, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. That's option number one. Then comes option number two. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Right? Yes. So let us have a look again at option number one. So if you become conscious of me, Krishna says, what does it mean? It means I'm servant. Jiva Svabhava Krishna Nityadas. I'm not all these roles and hats and designations, upadhis. I am servant. And not only that, of course, working in consciousness of Krishna also means we accept his recommendations, his instructions, and so on. So then we can pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by Krishna's grace. Wow, that's amazing. You know, I was just going through your Prabhupada museum. So there at the end, you know, there's this person in the ocean, right? We have a nice BBT painting too. It's hanging in Radhadesh, actually. You know, this drowning man in the ocean, the waves so high, you know. And then Lord Vishnu comes there on Garuda to save us, you know. So this ocean, this insurmountable ocean, which is impossible to get out, that shrinks to the size of a hoof print of a calf filled with water. Not even cow, but calf, tiny. Right? So if you go for a forest walk, hoof print of a calf filled with water, no big deal to step over that. You won't even notice, right? Yes. So that's the effect if we work in consciousness of Krishna, you know, this insurmountable ocean shrinks to the hoof size of a calf. So, but then the other one, if you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, that's exactly what we said the ego does. It blocks the ears, blocks the intelligence. We can't hear, we can't understand. Not only Krishna, but also not Krishna's devotees. So then we will be lost. At the latest, at the moment of death, but usually already so many times before then, you know. And this is really practical. When you look back and reflect on your life, whenever we find ourselves in some unwanted situations where we have some trouble, some tension, looking back, at least I can clearly see it in my life, that I was acting through false ego in those moments. You know, I wanted to prove something, show off, be right, be the hero, whatever it may have been. You know, so and then we are lost. We create our own miseries there, At that moment, we may not notice, That's, by the way, why we need a mentor, a counselor, especially in regards to false ego, because the false ego blocks us so much. We need this well-wishing friend who taps us on the shoulder and says, hey, just relax. Don't overdo it here. You overreacted a bit and this and that and whatnot, Yes. So yes, at that moment, we may not recognize that the false ego was, entangling us in some trouble there. But then later, once we get a bit more purified, we realize, oh yes, that's me here, I was just acting in false ego. And even, in any unwanted situations, we can keep this in the back of our mind that whenever we have some tension or we are agitated or offended or whatever, then we can just try and make these 2 steps back if we can. Sometimes we can't. And ask ourselves, what am I trying to do here? Am I a humble servant? Or am I trying to be master and controller? And then we realize being a humble servant is always the solution to the problem. Yes. Yeah, so it works magic. And not only that, we can understand this verse to also tell us that there are 2 motivating forces. Yes, the false ego motivating force, that's the path to success in material life. I want to become a doctor, lawyer, this, that, the ambitiousness. But as devotees, we have a different motivating force. I just want to serve. Yes. And if we just serve, Krishna in the heart, Paramatma, will witness that and open up the right opportunities for us at the right time. Yes. This is really how it works. In Krishna consciousness, we don't have to chalk out some career for ourselves. No, all we have to do is concentrate on giving ourselves in service. And everything else will happen from that. And it's very clear and logical. Oh, you are going. I was hoping you will get some books. Huh? Okay. Tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Yeah, so what I was saying. Oh, yes, yeah. It's very natural that if we give our heart and soul in service, then also some opportunities will come to us. Very clear, Our seniors, gurus will give us some more responsibilities. Oh, this person is, dedicated, reliable, punctual, responsible. So then we attract service opportunities. And also, let's be clear. In Krishna consciousness, we need to actually be empowered. We need empowerment and blessings. It's not just a question of, oh, I get up there, through false ego and ambitiousness. No. And in Krishna consciousness, we need the blessings, we need the mercy, we need some little empowerment. And that we get by giving ourselves in service, not through the ambitiousness. That will not attract blessings and empowerment and Krishna's mercy. So it's a very different path to success. And especially today, I find this so important to clearly understand because, as I was saying, we are surrounded by materialistic culture, by ambitiousness, pushing ourselves to the front. I am most qualified. I have to do this. But no, humble Vaishnav Mudas, I am unqualified. And we should do things, especially those things where we are more in the limelight, We should actually wait until we are invited, until we are ordered, to do things. Yes. I remember once I was giving this part also in Mayapur. And then one devotee in the audience was saying, but Mataji, were you not always planning to become a traveling preacher and an author? And I realized, no, I could never even imagine. No, it was not my plan. Definitely not. But all I can say is I was trying to really give myself in service. Doesn't matter what it was, Yes. And even writing, Shivam Swami told me, now you've got your institute. Where are your books? You have to write, And I thought, oh my God, me writing a book? My God, how to do that? I couldn't even conceive of it, So then I went to Narendra Swami and asked him, and he said, yeah, well, if you think you've got a mission, a message for the people, then you should write, And I was always thinking, my God, how am I going to do this, Yeah, so, yeah, the order has to come from above, because there's nothing worse than a person thinking, oh, I'm so qualified, I want to preach, I want to write, Oh, we may think we are so qualified, but others may have a different opinion, and this ego motivation just contaminates, because then we are acting for our own gratification. It's not selfless, for our own glorification, rather than glorifying Krishna or the process of devotional service or Prabhupada. We try to bring glory to ourselves, and that contaminates everything, Yes. Okay. Yes. So for our online audience, yes, I will repeat. Yes. Yeah, no, I summarize it in a nutshell. So how can we help non-devotees who are not striving for God consciousness, to make some little progress in this direction, recognizing that the false ego is their troublemaker, basically. When people are so attached to externals, because that's exactly what it is. The externals are gratifying the false ego, whereas the internals are not. And that's why today everything is so shallow and external, and people don't do much internal work and reflect, because that doesn't give any ego gratification, I mean, I dare say, even non-devotees, they have some concept of false ego, So we can preach to people just without using God or Krishna, that we all gonna have to die at the moment of death. Is it so important what car you drive and this and that? Yes, just to make people think a little bit, Yes, because unless people work on these things, they fall into a whole identity crisis. and into a vacuum when they actually face some calamities or some health crisis or something, then they have nothing internal to, yes, to fall back on, you know. So, I mean, we can preach to them that life, you know, success in life, what is happiness? It is not just all consuming and having this and the other thing, but there is some deeper thing we have to work on, you know. Yeah, and just, yeah, connecting with the supreme laws of nature, divine energy, or whatever people believe in, you know. So that there are possibilities to actually preach, you know, yes, to tell them, doesn't matter how many anti-wrinkle creams and facelifts you're gonna have, the body is gonna get older, it's gonna fall apart, but you're the soul, you're gonna witness, you lose control, or people become incontinent and all these things, you know. There's also a chapter in the Fourth Ego book about the purifying journey of old age. Oh yes, old age is intensely purifying, preparing us for the moment of death intensely, because we have to give up control. We love to be the controller. So imagine you can't even control your stool and urine anymore, and you know you've got Parkinson's, shaking like anything. How humbling. What a humbling journey. So we better get ready for whatever's ahead of us, you know. Yeah, no, it's just perfectly Krishna's arrangement to give us a last dose of purification, so that maybe we make it back to Godhead, you know, and we realize we are not the body and others. So, you know, there's plenty of things we can tell people just to make them think a little bit, shake them up, you know. Uh, what else? Anything else? Yes. Yes. So her question is, false egos, leaders have false egos, so how do we not get influenced by the false ego? Well, I was not saying like this, you know. Yeah, I don't want to be misunderstood here saying that our leaders have false egos. No, what I was saying, as a rule, men have stronger false egos, and that motivates them to take charge. Yes, because let me make this point, that false ego is not all bad. There is some little good part in it too. Okay, one false ego, but not now. Just, oh, she wants it now. The false ego. No, no problem. I'm happy that you're getting it. We all need it. We all need it. Yes. So yes. And false ego has some little good part in it too, because at least it motivates us. It gets us going. Yes. Even I am a mother, you know, this false ego identification with being mother, that gets us serving. You know, my God, being mother and wife, you learn how to serve selflessly 24/7. No off day, not from 9 to 5 and all this. But yes, yes, yes. Or even grihastha life. You know, there has to be some sense of ownership there for grihastas. And that motivates them to be responsible. Yes. I don't know what your temple cars look like, but often temple cars are not nicely maintained. They're bombs. Everybody drives them, bashes them around. And oh, it's just Krishna's. But if it's my car, oh, then I'm really, very, yeah, responsible. My car. So the I, me, and mine has some little good part in it too. And this false ego motivation in our neophyte stage is much stronger than the motivation of wanting to serve Krishna, right? Yes, yes, it is. So the whole process of Krishna consciousness is meant to transform that false ego motivation, that we have that same eagerness to serve Krishna as our family members or something. So false ego is like, it's like Krishna's trick in tricksing us to serve, Yes, yes. So it's not all bad, Yes. But going back to your question, I mean, yes, okay, okay. Yes, so how to deal with any devotee we have to work with when they have prominent false ego? Well, we should use it as an opportunity to dissolve ours by becoming humble and tolerant. Yes, yeah, we will talk about tolerance tomorrow. Yes. Huh? Yes, yes. Yeah, that's the only thing we can do. We use it as an opportunity to let go of our false ego. I remember Kadambakana Swami once made this comment in a class saying, oh, we may get all agitated. Oh, this person has such a strong false ego and giving me trouble. Well, we should see it that Krishna is sending us this person with a strong false ego to dissolve ours. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Okay. So first question, difference between false ego and real ego. Well, the real ego, the real identification is Jiva Svapara Krishna Nityadas. I am servant, nothing else. We those who are on the altar, this verse. I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, not a Vaishya, not a Sudra, not brahmachari, sannyasi, and all I am is servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis, Yes. So that understanding we have to come. I'm not all these roles. I'm not even Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. I'm not even brahmachari, grihastha, sannyas, vanaprastha, whatever. I may play these roles, and yes, Varnashram is helping me to get there, but ultimately we have to have that understanding. I'm not that. I'm simply tiny, insignificant servant of the servant of the servant. So and that's the real designation, the eternal. Yes, yeah, yes, constitutional position. Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, if there's a false ego, then there must also be a real ego. So, and the real ego is I am servant, you know? Yes. So, and then your other question, I do want to park this for tomorrow. Well, then get the book. It's all in the book and so much more. All the recordings will also be there because today we were just introducing the topic of false ego. So we have a little bit more of a clue what we are talking about here. So in tomorrow, there is all different Vaishnav etiquette rules. See, Vaishnav etiquette and culture, that's why it is so important. Doesn't matter where we live, you know. Vaishnava etiquette and culture is designed to become Trinada Pisunichena, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. If we were that spontaneously, no need for Vaishnava etiquette, you know? Yes, but because we are not, that's why Krishna gives us these rules of Vaishnava etiquette. And tomorrow we will discuss a really important one. I'm not going to tell you now. What? Yes, last. Ah! What? Well, put it that way. In our neophyte stage, the false ego motivation is much stronger than the motivation of simply wanting to serve, you know? But we should not leave it at that and stay there forever. I'm a brahmachari. This, just by the way, the I'm a brahmachari identification, that is quite a strong false ego motivation because there is quite a lot of fame and, you know, and recognition coming along with being a brahmachari. I mean, brahmacharis are almost an extinct species, you know, but this cannot be our main and only motivation. I remember once I was in Germany on the farms in Mahachalam, and I was giving the seminar, and there was quite a few brahmacharis there. And I was making this point that this I'm a brahmachari is quite a powerful motivation, you know, and yeah, we have to look, we have to reflect. Is this am I just running on this false ego motivation of hanging on to this brahmachari designation? You know, and then the year later he was in white and he came to me and he said, you remember when you gave that seminar? That really made me think. And I started realizing I'm just attached to these designations, but in my heart, I'm actually not really there, you know. So then he changed cloth, you know. Yes. Yes, but if we, yeah, I get your point. If we are simply attached to this designation, then it will not get us further, you know. Actually, what we should be attached to simply serving. And we should ask, you know, our seniors, our mentor, our guru, which way do I receive most purification? You know, what is good for my spiritual journey? You know, that should be our attachment, that we want to become purified, you know, and we should be open, you know, and if our seniors say, yes, you're well situated, stay like that, continue, you know, then no problem. But that attachment, and there is, in some cases, a lot of attachment there, that people just don't want to see that they're not properly situated. I mean, I'm not talking about you or anybody else here, but, you know, I'm traveling a lot and I come across all these things. And then people get married when they're 48 and they start having babies, you know. Oh, you know, and then you already missed the boat for the Vanapasta ashram, you know. So that's why actually a man should decide when he's ideally not later than 30, you know, whether he can really maintain brahmachari life, you know. Yes, and this happens unfortunately too often, that people get married when they are 48 or 50 or 52, and then they start with children. And yes, oh, I know a whole row of them, you know. Yes, yes, yes. So, and this often comes because the person is so attached to that designation, that saffron cloth, you know. Yes, and that is not leading to perfection. It's not the perfection of life to be a brahmachari, you know. Perfection of life is to purify our heart and to develop bhakti, you know. And there's for everybody some suitable path to get there. So now let me just quickly, since you're here, let me quickly mention a few little things about the other books too. I mean, you must have a pretty good idea now what the false ego book is, but all about, but the other books are also pretty good. Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This is all, 2 more minutes, please. This is all about the different natures of man, woman, that they're very, very different. I've shared a few things, you know, where women are good multitaskers and so on. You know, they're very, very different because they're meant to play different roles. And I find it very fascinating to discover how Krishna puts all the right qualities into the male, female, subtle, gross bodies so that they can play nicely the roles, you know. So yeah, and we women are very powerful. We have a very powerful energy. But we are meant to be the power of inspiration to the men around us, even if we are not married, rather than using that energy to compete with a man. Yes, yes. And that's what's going on today. We are competing with a man. And that weakens the man. It's very interesting because the men actually need that feminine energy to be empowered. And because we women don't give it to the men, but rather want to become the hero ourselves, that's why the men today become more and more irresponsible. Yes, we women actually contribute to it. Yes. I mean, it's quite an eye-opener. But, you know, women who are very feministically inclined, they may not like to read these things. Yes. So I warn you. It will touch a bit on the false ego. So then, shouldering relationships. This is all about the importance of having a mentor, a counselor. When you read this book, you will be convinced that without having a counselor or mentor and eventually becoming one, we actually cannot make advancement, no matter how long we've been around. Even Bharat Maharaj in the Bhagavatam, this was his problem. He didn't have a mentor who would tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, forget about the deer. Let the deer be deer and go back to your sadhana. Yes, he didn't have a counselor. And that's how he fell down, even on the level of Baba. Yes. And there's also a chapter on envy in it. We will talk on that topic in the house program on Saturday. That's from this book. Culture of correcting others, culture of respect, so many important topics in this book. Sorry, and false ego, I think we have some idea. There's also a whole chapter about chanting the holy name in it, because I do conduct holy name retreats. And the chanting is very instrumental in dissolving the false ego, but we have to know how to chant. If it is just becoming some mechanical routine thing, it's not going to do anything really. So, yeah. And then entering the Grihastha ashram, how to do it, how better not to do it. Very helpful for unmarried people or for parents who want to help their children to find a suitable spouse, or for mentors, matchmakers. You actually should have a matchmaking committee in your community. Every bigger community has to have this. Bhaktivedanta Manor, they have a well-functioning matchmaking committee. Yes. Yes, otherwise, festivals become the place where people try and chat up somebody, and it contaminates the whole atmosphere. Even the holy dam, parikramas. Many people go on parikrama to find a partner, because in their home temple there's nobody to help them. So what other choice do they have? So very practical handbook for matchmaking. There's a whole list of over 100 topics which the boy and the girl should discuss with a cool head, without having the pink glasses on, whether we are on the same page, Yes. During pandemic, I didn't only write the book, but I also, because I couldn't travel so much, I was putting a few couples together. And I used that process. So it's tested. It works. Yes. And then first time I have this book now. I only got yesterday a box straight from the printer in India. Family Life is an Ashram, Secrets of Success. There's a lot of interesting things in it. Yes. A lot of cultural things. I'm sharing stories from Bangladesh, Vaishnav hospitality and all that, the important duty of feeding, inviting guests, feeding them, and also there's a whole chapter on physical intimacy in it. There's a lot of confusion over this in ISKCON, what it means to follow the fourth principle. So I'm trying to give a balanced presentation, and I've got a few stories from Prabhupada which not many people know in this regard. Yes, so it's quite eye-opening, Yes. Yeah, what it basically takes to make our family life into an ashram. Because many people's family life is not an ashram yet. Because we haven't taken any training, any education. Nobody does any courses, seminars, hardly anybody does. People not preparing themselves. So all the books are actually courses, which I usually give in Mayapur. They're 15-hour courses. And now I'm putting them in book form so it can reach people better. So if you want to get any books, these three, the two about Grihastha Life, False Ego, they're $20 each. The other two are 15. You can pay in cash or in Zelle with Zelle. Yes. So please get some books. Okay, thank you so much. So we will continue the whole discussion tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Please come back. Tomorrow we'll get into some interesting points. Okay, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.